So this is day 2 of our introduction to probability. In the day 1 lesson, we were looking at probability from a theoretical point of view, thinking about what all of the possible outcomes were, then deciding how many ways we could get our desired outcome, and deciding the probability from those results. But today we want to talk about something a little bit different, and that is experimental probability. Experimental probability is based on actually doing the trials, actually rolling the die, actually choosing a card from a deck of cards, and doing those trials over and over and over again. The compilation of all those trials is what we call an experiment in probability. And an experiment then is made up of each of the individual trials that you do. With the experimental probability, we are basing our probability on actual results. With theoretical, we are basing our probability on what we think should happen or what we would expect to happen. So when we think about the probability of rolling a 3, it's based on the number of different ways to roll a number, the number of ways of rolling a 3, and never having actually rolled the die. But when we talk about experimental probability, we're looking at actually rolling the die and recording what numbers show each time we roll it. So it says here on our screen that experimental probability is based on real-life data instead of theory. This means chance is more of a factor and sometimes leads to unexpected probabilities, not what we thought would happen when we thought about it theoretically. The more trials that you have, the repetitions of an action, points of data, responses to a survey, whatever kind of data you're dealing with, then the closer to the theoretical probability you should get. Okay, so let's take a look at an example of this. We're going to do an experimental probability here together based on a video that I have here. We're going to see someone rolling a die, and we want to record our results from that in what we call a frequency table. So we have listed here all of the different possible outcomes that we could get from this experiment, 1 through 6, rolling a die. And then here you would put what the actual outcomes are. This is called the frequency, and so usually you start with just a tick mark to keep track, and then once you're done you count up all of the results and give it an actual number. Okay, so we're going to start with just 3 rolls. Okay, we're going to look at the first 3 rolls in this experiment. We're going to record what our results are and take a look at what kind of probability we would be talking about. Okay? Oh, sorry. Okay, so there's a 3, there's a 4, and there's another 3. Okay, so we're going to pause right there. So we had a 3, a 4, and another 3. Okay, so based on that, what is the experimental probability of rolling a 3 after just those 3 rolls? Well, the experimental probability is based on actual results. So our total number of possible outcomes now, well, right now we've had a total of 3 rolls, so our denominator in our probability is going to be 3. Of those 3 rolls, 2 of them have given me the desired outcome of a 3, and so my probability, my experimental probability of rolling a 3 would be 2 over 3, or about 0.67. Now, what is the theoretical probability of rolling a 3? That goes back to the actual situation. There are 6 possible rolls that you could make. 3 is one of those 6, and so our theoretical probability of rolling a 3 should just be 1/6. There's 0.16. So when you compare these two, you can see how after just 3 rolls, There's a huge difference between the experimental and the theoretical. Okay, and so that's what we mean by getting unexpected results sometimes. We would not normally expect rolling a 3 to happen 2/3 of the time. But in only 3 rolls, we can see how that would happen because chance is a part. Okay, now let's continue with this, and I'm going to show you this again. This is going to include the first 3 rolls that we just saw, but this is going to keep going. And you should be marking these as you see them. If you need to, go back and restart the video. Okay, so if you kept track of all of those rolls, then the results we should have gotten are here. So a 1 showed up 5 times, 2 showed up 3 times, 3 showed up 6 times, 4 showed up twice, 5 showed up once, 6 showed up 3 times. So now we're talking about 20 rolls instead of just 3. Oops, sorry. We don't need to see that again. All right, so what is the experimental probability of rolling a 3 after 20 rolls? Did we get any closer to the theoretical? So now, if we take a look at rolling a 3, we have a frequency of 6 out of the 20 times that we rolled this. So now our experimental probability is going to be 6 out of 20, or about 0.3. When we compare that to the theoretical now, remember our theoretical was a 0.16, we've gotten closer. We're still not quite there, but we're much closer to 0.16 with a 0.3 than we were with a 0.67. If we had done this 100 times, we would probably get even closer to the 0.16. Okay, so that's the idea. So experimental is based on actual data of actually doing an experiment, whereas the theoretical is based on what we expect to happen based on the situation. Okay? All right, so now you're going to get a chance to do this on your own. When you look in your booklet, you'll see that there are directions for you to conduct your own experiment and to collect your own data. You'll notice in the instructions that everyone has been assigned to a different experiment. So you need to do your own experiment and get your own data. The materials that you need, the deck of cards, the dice, the coins, or not the coins, the two-sided counter chips, all of those you should be able to get from Mr. Frerking if he hasn't given them to you already. Okay, so ask him about it if you don't see them in the room. But using those materials, you've each been assigned to conduct a different experiment. You're going to collect your own data, and then you're going to answer the questions that need to be answered for your experiment. Okay? And then when you're finished, you're going to send your answers to me so that I can see how you did on this. And then you have the practice that you can work on that gives you a little more practice on this idea of figuring out probability from experimental data. Okay, if you have any questions about this, let me know. I will get back to you as soon as I can if you have questions. And that's it for today. We'll see you next lesson.